I'd like to ask you, how can we simply put the difference between QoE and QoS, meaning the quality of experience from a customer or a subscriber at the end of a network versus the quality of service parameters in the network. So how could you explain that, in simple term, the main difference between the QoE and QoS?
Yeah, great question. And I'm sure it's a question that'll get asked and answered many times. Quality of service is really defined and put in place to look at an experience of a service typically between 2 points in a network. So if you want to understand the quality of service for a link, an Ethernet virtual circuit, for example, it's a business customer may have purchased, or you want to look at voice, video, or data, you tend to look at those, point to point and say, how do I think that service is working generally for the customers? Quality of experience is a different approach. Quality experience is trying to understand the actual experience a customer is having over a very diverse set of networks. So it's looking at all the types of applications that might be getting used. So if we look at, IoT of all these different types of sensors and gateways that are running over an IoT network, and what we focus on is giving a view of what's that experience like, which goes way above and beyond a quality of service. A quality of service will say, measure these 3 parameters between 2 points and report on it, right? That's QoS typically. And the networks have been engineered for QoS to try and meet those numbers. We look at quality experience, we're looking at 40 or 50 parameters and correlating them and running analytics on all of them and being able to isolate and say, you're having this type of experience in the network because of this type of issue. So it's a much broader look, and it is really looking at what's being experienced from the user from when they get on a network till they get off a network. It is not looking at narrow points, and it's not saying, it's if you have an issue, and if we get off, just translate a little bit from IoT to residential, which most people understand. If you're having an issue with your video call, your Zoom call or whatever, typically when you call up an operator, they're going to say, well, we didn't see anything because we're just looking at QoS. We don't actually understand what individuals are experiencing on that network. And while we're focused on the machine side, the analogy is very similar.
So the QoE is a broad look at the experience that I have as a subscriber, as a sensor, or a customer at the end of a network. And the QoS is a parameter within the network that the operators are setting. So the QoE is really the end-to-end experience as to what is it I'm getting for my dollar versus just the parameters, correct?
Yeah, I think you could also look at it as you need to still have QoS because parts of the networks need to operate, they need to be optimized. QoE sits on top. So I think one way might be to look at it is you may have a quality of service defined for the first hop, let's say onto the radio network. And then you have a QoS inside a core network. And then you have a QoS view maybe in specific clouds. The QoE runs over top of all of that. To help build on, the existing QoS type infrastructure that's been put in place.
Good. So the QoS, even if they're mapped throughout the network, are internal service provider variables that they set in their network, and the QoE is the measurement of the end result, right? What am I getting as quality of experience?
Yeah, I think when you look at the transport layer, that analogy is bang on, right? The QoS is really looking at, specific hops and portions of a network. But you can also look at QoS for service like video, right? Yeah. So what's video service like? But it's the video service for the whole network. It's not for the subscriber or end user of the machine. Yeah. When you look at quality of experience, you're looking at it from the individual user perspective. And you're just not looking at one service, you're looking at all the services because you want to have a view of the total experience, right? It's not good enough to say, hey, we think the video service was working. We don't understand why you had a problem, right? That's not good enough. You need to understand what's being experienced. And when you understand what's being experienced, now you can truly quickly isolate issues in your networks. You can optimize, you can predict, but first you need to really get a good handle on that experience. And how many of us, when you have, and I had just the problem yesterday, right? All of a sudden I lost internet access. And I'm going around going, what is it? And I have to manually go to devices and say, okay, it's my home gateway. So I power cycle my home gateway. Well, that didn't fix it. And after a few minutes, I unplugged the modem cable to try and force another reset at the other end. Plug that back in. That didn't work. And then I had to phone them. And when I phoned them, they didn't know what was going on. It recovered magically on its own. But of course, I've lost 10, 15 minutes of work time. And I asked them what happened. They said, well, we don't know. It's okay now. That is not understanding quality of experience.
That's fantastic. Thank you. That's a great explanation. And as a matter of fact, you're in your home under COVID, isolation in Ottawa. I'm in my home in Markham. We're doing this thing over probably 2 different carriers. I don't know if you're using the same carriers I am. So that is a really good explanation when you take it down to the residential mindset as to what QoE can actually do for everybody at the end of the network. Thank you very much, Michael. This was very informative, and have yourself a great day and stay safe.
Thank you, Louis. Great question once again. Look forward to our next discussion.
Cheers. Bye for now.